Having gotten over, I think, the initial shock we've all had and sort of really disbelief, I feel now there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we have to get ready for emerging out of the darkness of this tunnel we've been in and getting ready for the new world. And obviously, our wishful thinking for all of us is wish we could go back to exactly how things were. But I'm afraid that is genuinely wishful thinking, and we're going to go back to a completely new world. It's going to be new customers, almost new habits, new way of living. So we've got to change our mindset for this world, a mindset much more adaptable. We've got to adjust very quickly, be very nimble, very resourceful to deal with all this uncertainty. And that kind of starting mindset really is, much closer to the startup mindset that an entrepreneur has to have when they start a business than when you do in an established company. Because I think, in a way, every single company when we go back will be like a startup. No comfort zone, and they'll be in the same uncertain lack of safety nets, having to almost, fight tooth and nail for customers and satisfy new customer needs. So I think that mindset of a startup we all need is what I believe accessible to all of us. I think people overcomplicate this idea of a startup mindset. For me, actually, it's really simple. I mean, you can, if you choose, go to Amazon, and I think there are 56,000 books on innovation. But for me, innovation, from my own personal life experience, is actually rather simple. Innovation really comes only from one thing. And that one thing is really simple, and that comes from how close you really are to your customers. And I'm not really talking about sort of stereotypical words like customer service, and of course customers are important. What I mean is, what makes a startup really behave like a startup is the extraordinarily close relationship they have with customers. Everything in a startup is really the compass, the guiding light is seen through the eyes of the customer. Because without the customer, the business is not going anywhere. So they become the sun and the moon and the stars. And so everything you do is through the customer's eyes, seeing, will that make a difference for the customer? Now, this is very different in a big company when customers are already given. I think customers almost start becoming depersonalized. Instead of really looking at customers, really knowing them well, you know them as market segment, you know their behavioral patterns, you know lots of data about them, but you don't really know them the way a startup knows its customers. Because a startup doesn't have access to data and that sort of historic information. So the only solution they've got is to actually step into their customers' shoes and actually become their customers and see the product and business they offer just through the eyes of the customer, really feeling for the customer intimately. What is it that keeps the customer up at night? What headaches are beginning to be solved? What is irritating the customer? What would the customer love? What would it make their day? And these decisions are actually so simple. And yet I think they've been lacking in big companies because there's been no need to. Customers are almost there. But this is a great opportunity to almost shift this filter of thinking around completely and bring customers to the focus of every single thing you do. Methodically internalize the voice of the customer. And what's going to be interesting is that you're not going to get the voice of the customer anymore, because the customer's life would have changed on its axis. So there's no point gathering data on them yet. So you have to know them so well that you almost second guess what they need without them not even knowing it themselves. And that means you have to throw the data away and just in real time really be the customer, feel for them, pick up the signals that perhaps they're not even picking up themselves. And this is really simple. If you put all your company, all your team, all your organization behind just thinking about the customer, being the customer, seeing your business through only the customer's eyes, that's where innovation comes from. That's where what next comes from. Because innovation is a fancy word for just problem solving. Your customer is going to have a problem and you need to solve it. And you need to put away all the bureaucracy, all the systems and processes that are out of date, and think only, how can I solve my customer's problem? And this will fire up the organization. And it will bring what's special in a startup, that magic, that energy of a startup, to every single business, large and small, however long you've been established. It will galvanize people for a mutual purpose, deep sense of commitment, intense connection to what they do, and see the magic happen. And if we bring customers back and look at everything through the customer's point of view, not only will this be survival, but also perhaps it's a secret to greatness and the silver lining from coming out of all of this.